Welcome back to the School Hours CEO podcast. I am, of course, your host, Danielle, and joining me today is Shalina Bell, who I am so excited to have here. She has a amazing story and energy that will absolutely stay with you. She's a single mom of two, a Reiki master, a speaker, author of the powerful memoir, Don't Worry, Inner Child, We Got This, and the creator of the Daily Rituals movement. Shalina's mission is to help Shalina's mission is to help women heal, feel seen, and take back their power through self-love, mindfulness, and daily intention. So today she's going to share her personal transformation, and I'm going to ask her about the moment that she really realized things needed to change and how she made those shifts. So Shalina, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I was looking forward to this today.
So let's kick things off with your story. When did you first realize something needed to change, and how did that moment lead you to the healing path that you're on today?
There's so many, I want to say there were so many different moments in my life. I'm 44, but I say it like I'm so much older. But there's always little, I think, moments in our journey that we get those aha moments or that light bulb goes off and you're noticing that you're repeating the same pattern and something isn't changing, whether it's your relationships that you're attracting or just how you handle the way people treat you or how you love yourself or lack of. And I remember being actually with the father of my children. We were together for 15 years. And I noticed I was growing in a different direction than the way he was growing. And it took a while for me to say, you're not getting any younger. And I started to feel like my spirit was slowly, the light in me was dimming because I said, I don't feel fulfilled. He's a great person, a good dad. I said, but I know for myself, I know and I believe that there is some type of match that feels more aligned. And it took me a long time to just speak that out loud. And I said, I'm starting to lose myself because I'm unhappy. And that's one of the takeaways that I can say to anyone, that and you feel in your spirit when you are not happy or content. And you shouldn't rely on another person to fulfill that. That should be something you fulfill within yourself. And like I said, he wasn't a bad person and it wasn't like a toxic relationship. I just knew that I was growing in a different way than which he was, and I didn't feel aligned with him. And that can be applied to whether it's your job that you're doing. If you don't feel like it's your sole purpose, that what you're doing for a living, and you hate going to work every Monday, then you need to figure out what that is that feeds your soul, because that's probably not it. And it was a transition between that, and I had medical issues. I had fibroid tumors I was diagnosed with at 22 years old. They told me they didn't think I would be able to have children. And I went through debilitating pain for 20 years. And 2 years ago, I decided to have a hysterectomy and say, you know what? I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of being so strong and just dealing with the pain. I need to do something to have a better quality of life, not just for myself, but for my children that I have. So that was another part of my life that was, I always asked, God, why are you having me in pain like this so young? And my quality of life at 22 years old and up was not the same as most girls. I was always worrying about, oh my God, can I wear this? Does this hurt my stomach? Can I stand up too long? Can I do this too long? Can I wear heels? Because things unbalance you with heels. And it was 20 years of living like that. And I was just like, this is enough. And during that same time, my mom passed away out of nowhere. And that was another awakening moment for me to appreciate the people we have in our lives while we have them, and that nothing is ever really that serious, and only control what we can control, because clearly death isn't something we have any control over. And those were basically my major aha moments. Even just my last relationship for 4 years, I thought I was like, this is it. I'm in love. This is it. And it was toxic. And I always tell people, you shouldn't date someone you wouldn't allow your daughter to date. And I even said it to myself after that third year in it. I said, you wouldn't let your daughter date someone like this. What are you doing? And I always thought I loved myself, that you see other people say it's important to love yourself, and I'd be the poster child for telling people you love yourself and I love myself. You cannot say you love yourself if you're staying in a relationship where someone is toxic or mistreating you in any way, shape, or form. So then I started to question, how much do I really love myself? Because I'm still in it. And then that was probably one of the last major ahas for me. That was, you need to love yourself more. And then it made it just like this easy for me to say that New Year's Eve came and I said, I'm not going to the New Year's in this relationship. I'm not repurposing the same cycles. And we're still growing and we're still, evolving and learning. And I feel like healing isn't linear. And I'm still healing from things that I thought I healed. But those were probably my major points, turning points for me.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. But you know what, though? I think like the theme that I'm kind of hearing between the lines is raising your standards for yourself and your enjoyment of life, right? Because like you said, especially after your mom passed away, I imagine was kind of a highlight of this. Like, like you said, we only have one life and you have to enjoy it. The purpose of life is, I mean, you started by saying, if you're not living your purpose, then, what do you do? I mean, you say it nicer than that, but what are you doing, right? Because everybody, I agree. This is my philosophy as well, is that everyone is here for a purpose to fulfill and of all sizes and impacts and all of that. But we each have our own unique path that we're here to live. And like you say, you notice those patterns and you recognize, okay, hang on a minute. This pattern doesn't feel good. This is not getting me where I want to be. So what kind of changes do I need to make? So let me ask you this then. So, how did you know which changes needed to be made? Like, how did you know where the pivots needed to be made?
I want to say it took time for me to get to that point to figure out exactly. For me to say, I can pinpoint exactly moments where I was like, this isn't a great relationship, because when you're in love, you have blinders on. You don't realize things, and everyone's on their own clock. I always say, like, I could never give other people advice about their relationships because everyone is on their own journey. It's their own experiences they have to go through. And I can be here if you need a friend to listen, but I've learned you can never tell someone or give someone advice on what they should be doing in their relationships, because it's usually going to backfire on you, or they're just going to go and avoid whatever you said and act like they were listening and completely avoid and dismiss it. No one ever really told me things that I needed to change about myself. It was usually life experiences and things being repeated and me noticing nothing's changing. I would say that would be the thing. Nothing has changed. And that was like, okay, so if nothing changes then, right?
Right.
So I have to be the change that I want to see for myself.
Yes. I mean, you do. And it really does come down to identity work, right? How do I see myself? How do I want to see myself? What's the situation I want to see myself in? So I imagine, it sounds like there was a significant amount of healing and shifting that needed to be done. So I want to ask you about your memoir, Don't Worry, Inner Child, We Got This. That's such a powerful title. And I also believe that everything comes down to what our childhood looked like, right? I mean, ancestry and lineage too, but also, what our childhood looked like. So what was the healing process like for you? And what did your inner child need to hear most?
So I started that book when I was about 22 years old. And I just remember one day saying, I should write a story about everything I've experienced, And I started writing and I had pages written, and this was all in a notebook, and my hand got tired and I got discouraged and I stopped writing. And 2 years ago, I found that notebook, and I was in the middle of actually writing a children's series about my children. And I found that notebook and I felt a strong pull saying, like, you need to finish this and get this out. I'm a very private person. So for me to share a memoir about things that most people have no idea about, that's a big, big step for me, because I'm like, people are going to know things that I purposely don't share. But I felt and I feel my calling is bigger than feeling like people are going to know, because I know it's going to resonate and touch lives, which is basically what I feel my purpose is.
Yes.
And even writing this book, Danielle, I felt like I had tears of me writing and things that I was actually healing while writing and remembering and just thinking about things and saying, wow, it's different when you go back and you actually write it down and you're rereading it and editing it and you're like, that's crazy. I can't believe how many things I've been through. And like you said, and basically what my book talks about is my journey. And I talk about how when I was a little kid, my dad and I used to read books. And, book fairs at school, most kids want candy or coloring books or toys. And I would always want books on extrasensory perception and telepathy and telekinesis. And I'd be so excited to come home and bring my dad these books and we'd read them together because to us, it was like a norm to be aware of things like that.
Uh-huh.
And as I was an adult, I said, that's so crazy. I said, why was I? Because now I work with children, I work in pre-K. And I just think of like me at that age, like they're thinking about things like this at a book fair. And I'm like, it's amazing how I was drawn to that. And that's who
Yes.
I am, even as an adult now. And those gifts I have, they've only heightened since I've gotten older. So I touch a little base about that. And growing up with my mom who had an issue with alcohol and how that caused me to despise alcohol growing up because my mom wasn't someone that when she drank, she became the funny, emotional, affectionate drinker. She became a whole nother entity that we didn't recognize. And that was traumatic enough for me that I said, whatever that liquid is that they're drinking, I don't want any part of that. And still to this day, I've never been drunk in my entire life because that's how embedded it was in me that I was just like, I don't crave, I have no desire for whatever that is that turns people into something else like that.
Um,
And me being such an intense empath, I find that if I do go out dancing or places where people are drinking or partying, I feel the energy of that substance. So let's just say I'm with like friends and they're drinking or whatever, and they've been drinking for hours. I feel the energy of the alcohol in the person. I don't no longer feel my friend's energy.
um,
So being an empath, that's like an overpowering, almost like a struggle between me and that of I don't want to feel that. I don't want to be around that. And then the next day I feel depleted. So a lot of my book talks about my issues with learning that alcohol now as an adult is a trigger. So our childhood, a lot of things we deal with or not deal with become what we either reflect on as adults, what we attract as adults, what we actually dislike as adults. A lot of people don't realize some people were given the tools on how to heal from things in our childhood, or they were given the tools and not taught how to use them. And a lot of people have no idea when I said we have to do the work on ourselves. They don't even know what doing the work means.
right.
I talk a lot about the people that I've come across in the past years that have inspired me and motivated me into meditation and mindfulness and tapping techniques and things to just keep you resonating and balanced. And I speak this way, but I'm this way all the time. Anyone that talks to me, it's like, you're always like this. Like, you're always so calming and peaceful. And I learned that I had a gift with healing with my hands through a friend who did Reiki.
Mm,
And I was just like, oh, I want to go see what it's like. I'll let you practice on me. And I let her practice on me. And I said, I could do that. And she's like, you probably can. You're such a powerful person. And my children, which is like a prime example, my daughter, when she doesn't feel good, she says to me, and that's how I knew I had the gift. She says, Mom, if you could just put your hands on me, I know I'll feel better. So I did that and she instantly started to feel better. And that's what made me say, you know what? I already have it in my hands. Why don't I just get certified and heighten it and see if I learn the symbols and everything?
right.
That's why I got certified because it did heighten it a lot faster when I do Reiki. I don't broadcast that I do Reiki. I don't, have a business of doing Reiki on people, but I know that it's in my hands and I activate it if I want to help myself or somebody else.
Right.
And this book is just more of like a tribute to that inner child. And like I said, I work in pre-K and they're 4 years old. And I have so many people look at me and say, I don't know how you could do that. And I said, but you know what's funny to me? I don't feel like I'm going to work. Every
Mm.
day I feel like my inner child gets to go play with their friends every day. It doesn't feel like a job. And I have parents that say to me, everybody should have a Miss Bell. And I know that my purpose is to make people feel seen. So if I can come to work every day and make these little 4-year-olds, if you think about it, is the prime age when we start to learn abandonment and rejection and all of those emotions, right? So then
Right.
if I'm there and my purpose is to teach them to feel seen and safe and loved, I honestly feel that I could possibly change the trajectory of some of the choices they make as adults because they have that contrast. They have something to compare it to. They
Right.
know this doesn't feel like love or this doesn't feel the way I felt safe because I know what that felt like because I had Miss Bell when I was little. And if we all had that one person in our lives growing up that made us feel those things, I think it would make a lot of a difference of the things we accept and don't accept as adults.
Absolutely. That is such important work too, because I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I like working with moms specifically over just females in general, is because we're raising the next generation of kids, right? And the ripple effect of the work we do, whether it's with the parents or with the kids directly, changes the trajectory of their lives and then the people that they come into contact with. So it's so important. And I love that I have chills. I love that you do this with the little people, because like you say, for, ages in utero to age 7 is when our brains are operating in this like sponge state, right? Where everything we're experiencing is being absorbed as truth, as gospel, right? Our subconscious mind, I know you know this, our subconscious mind doesn't have it doesn't know to filter it as good and bad and right and wrong. It just is absorbing and okay, this is what life is. So for you to be smack dab in the middle of those vital years and helping them and their subconscious absorb those beliefs and those ideas and those values with that energy is, I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy because we are, you and I are coming at it from different angles, but if there's more moms like us who are doing these kinds of things, and this, let's back up a second. This is the power that any mom has if she's following her purpose, no matter what it is, whether it's related to being a mom or a woman or whatever specifically.
Right.
If that woman is in the vibration of alignment with her purpose, that ripples out to the people around us, and most impacted are the kids because they are absorbing the energy, whether you're actually speaking to them or not. They're absorbing those energies, they're absorbing those beliefs. So that amazing. So talk to me about your #daily rituals movement. What are these daily rituals? So what are these rituals and how do they help busy women feel grounded and in control?
So, what's so funny is since we scheduled this episode, I've been in such creator like mode. It's been crazy. Like something is definitely just like taken over and has me in just like creating.
I love it.
Like thinking of more ways I can help people. What else can I create to help people? What else can I create? So since we scheduled our show today, I started an Etsy store called I branded Daily Rituals Co., which is the name of now my brand. And I have created digital journals for moms, for men, 30-day gratitude journal for men, 30-day gratitude journal for women. But the rest and reset journal I just created for moms that are overwhelmed and busy. And I even created a daily rituals card deck that you can either print out or use as digital. And there's like a positive affirmation card. There's about 13 cards you can print out or just use them and just look them up or keep them as a screensaver. So the way Daily Rituals started, it was during COVID. And my boyfriend at the time, he suggested, why don't we start working out together? Because at that time, I was not the weight that I felt good and loved myself in.
Right.
So I said, okay. And me being not very consistent with exercising, I felt like, you know what? If I post my workouts on Instagram, maybe that'll hold me accountable and keep me consistent.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is coming. And So what I did was I woke up at 6:30 in the morning. I went to this track by my house and I did a meditation, and then I do affirmations, and then I do like a 30-minute workout. So then I started posting that. And then I always post like an inspirational, motivational quote. That's part of my daily rituals, right? So then it started out where a few people started watching my stories. Like I don't have like a very huge following on Instagram. So it turned into like hundreds started watching my daily rituals. And then it went into thousands, but it wasn't just the numbers. It was random people that I had no idea who they were from all over the country. They would message me and say, I know you don't know me, but something you posted said in your daily rituals helped me get through my surgery. And I was really afraid of it. And just keep doing what you're doing and thank you. And that was another light bulb for me saying, you're living, this is you living in your purpose. Like, this is what I feel like that has always been my purpose, though, is to help. So that kept me still going and it kept me still working out and keep posting my daily rituals. And then I noticed celebrities started watching me and liking my stuff. And then Nike women messaged me and said they let me know they're watching and to keep going. And it was just momentum and things that just like that just turned into thousands and thousands of people watching me and messaging me. And I said, wow, like I'm helping so much larger of an audience. And if I can just make this even larger, I don't know how, but I was just like, I'm going to keep doing these daily rituals. So I've been doing them since 2019. And then I did my book in November. And I don't know, something just spoke to me and gave me the idea of like, how else can I get this even bigger? So I've been doing podcasts. And that energy felt crazy because once I did my book, I kept getting messages, people wanting me to be on their podcast. And I remember calling my dad, like, Dad, this is an energy I am not used to. And it's not a bad energy. It's an amazing energy, but it's unfamiliar. And he's like, keep going, keep going. You know, I was like, I am. And then this whole idea of my digital products and just the amount of people looking at these things, and I've only created them a week ago. It's insane how many people are looking for something to help them.
Yes. Yes. There are way more people who need help than are who are helping. That's something that I heard a couple of years ago now when I think it was even a business coaching context. And they were saying, you know, I know that by now it feels like there's a lot of people doing what you want to do. And maybe you're just like the thing you do specifically, there's somebody else already doing it. So you feel like that's already filled. But the message was no, you know, not only is it your purpose it's your calling for a reason,
Right.
but also not everybody is going to resonate with the people who are already doing it. That's why you feel called to do it. And, you know, more than that, like I just said, there's more people who need help than are helping. So if you have the nudge to help in any way, it's because somebody out there is literally praying for you to deliver the messages that you're going to deliver. I've even had people message me. I've just basically repeated something that I heard, like I did just now. I've repeated something that I've seen somewhere else, but the way that I repeat it and then the tangent that you go on,
it's in your voice. Yeah.
Yes, it makes a huge difference. So let me ask you this. So there's, you know, tons of people out there, especially in 2025 when there's stressors everywhere and there's noise everywhere. For the mom who feels like she's stuck in survival mode, what's like one small but powerful ritual she can start with, like tomorrow morning or tonight even?
I actually just created something 2 days ago. It's called Take 5. So, you know, in movies, you see them say, take 5, take a break. Yeah. I created something called Take 5. And what that means basically when it's a card that you can read off of and keep, but it's the Take 5 method is when you pause for a minute and you take 3 deep breaths. If you need more, then take 5. But you do deep breaths. And then you set an intention of something that you want for your day to go. But then you also think of something that's non-judgmental, something positive, and visualize how you actually want that day to turn out or that moment to turn out. So basically, it's like if you're listening to the radio and you don't like the song, you're just changing the station to something that you like.
Right.
So Take 5 is what I
love that. That's a really powerful idea too. You know, that's something that's kind of along the same lines as Abraham Hicks talks about segment intending, right? And she says, yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar with Abraham Hicks, she says, every segment of your day, each new thing, like this podcast episode, this is a segment. And then the next thing we do is the next segment. And then, school pickup is one segment and making dinner is one segment. And she says to get the most out of life, like Shalina's saying, is take 5, basically. She doesn't say it like that, but that's basically what it is. And, just take a second to recenter yourself, get back into your body, back into the moment, and be intentional about how the rest of it goes. And then, like you said earlier about shifting your identity too, in those moments, then you get an opportunity to shift back into, okay, who do I want to be going forward? What am I setting the standard for in this occurrence? Because, everything gets to be as good as it can possibly be. If you're having a bath, for moms, sometimes even just that's a luxury to be able to get into the bathroom without being interrupted. But then I ask myself, like, how can I make this even better? So I light a candle and I grab my little portable speaker and I have, some music playing or something, like or get a book or whatever it is. How can we make this even better? So I love that take 5. That's such a great piece of advice. I love that.
Thank you.
So let's talk about now then balance, because obviously with all of these things going on, you obviously are busy, I would imagine. So what does balance actually look like for you right now?
So I have 2 children. So my son is 9 and my daughter is 14, and they are both in sports. So I am with them about 95% of the time. So that means I'm also a mom and I work, and I'm also a part-time Uber driver for my children that I don't get paid for. Oh,
right. Hashtag mom problems. Yeah.
So, and then there's days where they have practices at the same time, or one has to get dropped off earlier and then the other one has to get dropped off at the same time. I have to make sure they eat before they go. So I do have moments of, I'm going to lock myself in the car for an hour by myself because you just need to get back to 0.
Right.
But I'm very big. I noticed lately what's been helping me, I do like a tapping method.
I love tapping.
And my favorite place to hide is like in the bathroom if I need a minute, and just ground myself again when I have those days where it feels very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I love to be outside in nature if I can. I love that.
I love that. That's such great
Time
advice.
for myself is so crucial because I feel like you need that for your mental state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can imagine it's hard enough finding self-care time as a mom with a partner. I can't imagine what it's like as a single mom. So that's, it's so important that we highlight this message that taking time for yourself, whether you have time or not, is so crucial. I heard somebody say one time, if you feel like you don't have time to meditate, you need it more than anything.
That means you need it. Yeah, that's so true.
And it can be just 5 minutes, like you said, take 5. Like it can literally be lock yourself in the bathroom or the car or the closet for 5 minutes.
Seriously.
And take that time for yourself because, that cliche, you can't pour from an empty cup is 100%.
That's one of my favorites. You can't. It's so true.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about self-love here. So on a regular basis, how do you practice it in a season where you're constantly pouring into everyone else?
I've actually been working on that more lately because it's like practice what you preach, Yeah. And the other day, I was going to the store to get stuff for dinner, and I had a gift certificate for the nail salon. And I was like, maybe I'll just push it off till tomorrow, or maybe I'll just paint my own toes, And I went in the store, I got the stuff for dinner, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go do my toes. And I even paid extra for the longer massage. And my phone died. I didn't even care about it. I said, this is it. I deserve this. I am so deserving of this. Just tell yourself you're deserving of it. And it's funny, when I wasn't comfortable with my weight, I rarely posted pictures or took pictures of myself. Mm-hmm. And once I got more into shape, started doing my daily rituals longer, lost weight, I started posting pictures of myself. And then I noticed other women that were following me and watching started posting pictures of themselves.
That's amazing.
I was promoting, take those pictures, take more pictures of yourself, love on yourself more.
Right.
No matter how you feel about yourself, take more pictures of yourself to feel good about yourself, regardless,
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So what's one limiting belief then that you had to overcome to be seen and heard and allow yourself to receive all the good the universe has for you the way you are now today?
It's funny. People always see me either winning things because I was on the Ellen show with my daughter and she gave me a car. And when I told people, they were just like, of course you did, because this is you. Because people just think like you're always lucky because I do win things all the time.
Right.
And I somehow always get picked to be on TV shows randomly.
That's fun.
And everyone's just like, you're just always lucky. And I said, but people don't realize the work and the energy of the person that I am that I put out, because I believe
Right.
what you put back. You get back what you put out there, you know?
Right.
And I just look at it like if you live with good intentions and, you know, your energy introduces you before you walk into a room, and be mindful of that as well, and be mindful of how you treat others. And I think that is what always attracts good things to me. And I strongly believe that everything always works out.
Yes,
just
I
believe
believe that too.
And if you do
Everything
it
is always
though,
working
right?
out. Yeah, it does. Well, it does. It's so funny. Everything is always working out for us is a mantra that my family and I have been repeating for years and years. And the more you believe it, the more that it's true. And then so you have this really amazing like feedback loop of proof that everything is always working out. And then so even the most challenging things can be overcome. And now, I mean, it's funny because that's a pattern that I found in myself, is that I'm really good at crisis management.
Right.
Right. But the thing is, okay, I'm glad I'm good at crisis management, but I don't want to have
You
to
don't
always
be
manage
kind of-
crisis. Yeah, nothing. I don't want to. So okay, I recognize that I'm good at that and that's fine. But how do we get to how can we elevate these things so that
Right.
it's not what
To avoid
happened?
it. Right.
Right. Exactly. So that's the work. And like you say, people don't recognize that believing everything is always working out for you, like that's work. And doing the inner work, that's work. You know, calming and relating to your inner child, that's work, right? And it's not like it's not necessarily hard work all of the time. Sometimes it's not fun, for sure.
Yeah.
But when you see the payoff, when you understand that it's getting you to where you want to be and it's helping you mold your identity to be in vibration with what you want, it's worth it. And that's what keeps us going, right? It's scary to get started. I know that for sure.
It is. It is.
But it's
being uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly. The ego doesn't want to be uncomfortable. The nervous system doesn't want to be uncomfortable, but that's why you like tapping, for example. I love tapping because it helps regulate the nervous system, right? So that you can, because ultimately, you know, as you're talking about improving and heightening your boundaries and your standards and what you allow into your life and what you're available for, and, you know, you change the relationships to something, you know, more aligned, and you lose the weight and you take more pictures of yourself and your confidence grows and all of that. Those are all identity shifts as well. Right. And that's a practice. And that's allowing yourself to expand and receive all of that good that's in there. Right. Yeah. So if the women listening know that they're meant for more, but they're feeling overwhelmed or they're stuck, what would you say to them?
Because I've been there.
Me too.
Just to be patient and give yourself some grace, and that it always gets better. Everything is your perspective. So change your perspective, or you change our radio station.
Yeah.
But everything starts in here and what you tell yourself. So ask yourself, are you speaking to yourself the way you would speak to your child or your friend? If the answer is no, then you need to change the way you're talking to yourself. But it always gets better.
Oh, I have chills. That's so beautiful. And yes, amen to all of that. Yes, 100%. I am behind it. So Shalina, thank you so much for being here. I am going to link all of the things below so that the people listening can follow you. They can get in on your journals and your cards and get to know you a little bit more, hang out in your space, maybe do the daily rituals with you.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to follow Shalina, which I guarantee you'll want to, you can check below in the show notes or in the description if you're watching on YouTube. And while you're down there, you can like and subscribe and hit the little bell notification so that you know when a new video is available. And Shalina, thank you so much for being here. This has been amazing. I preach, everything they're saying, I just love so much. So I hope that everyone listening has really taken it in, and maybe we'll even listen a second time to really absorb all of your amazing messages. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure speaking with you. I loved it.
I love it. We'll see you next time. Take care.